Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Power Hour of Self-Care. I'm Annette Chappe, and I'm here to share with you um, all the wonderful things that's been going on lately with respect to self-care. I have a guest, Jeff Alridge, who is known as Jeffosaurus Rex, coming to join me today, and I will introduce him as soon as he shows up. Of course, travel being live, sometimes we're late. So I'll play the beginning of the show, and I look forward to hearing your comments and feedback. See you soon. And welcome back. So, are you all ready for Christmas? I know I'm not. Well, Jeff approached me a couple weeks back and he said, "You know, Annette, since you've been on my podcast, I know that you've been doing your podcast for a while now. I would like to be on yours." So I said, "Great. I can't wait to have you on." And so I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Jeff before he gets here. And he has this podcast called Your Favorite Life. And he talks with his guests, striving to bring people together, shed light on authentic and creative expression of themselves, because he does dragon boating and he used to do a show called Mo Mondays. And I was on his show a couple of times. And I really enjoyed being on Mo Mondays because we got to share some stories of our life. They were short ones, 10 minutes, and you get up on stage and you share your story. And Jeff was like the greatest host you could ever imagine. He's so easygoing and funny, and I really enjoyed getting to know him as a person as well as a fellow podcaster. And so his expressive nature in his podcast, he likes to bring on various different guests and giving them opportunities for also for giving people mentorship. So he does life coaching as well, and he loves helping people build confidence. And he's a pretty confident dude, like pretty easygoing, but very confident. And I've met his family, wonderful people, and they've actually been so kind to me and purchased some of my coloring books. So, it's a connection I've had with Jeff over the years, and I look forward to him showing up. So, he actually teaches boating on Kempenfelt Bay. So, if you're ever in Barrie and you want to go dragon boating in the summer, look him up. And I guess he uses Jeffosaurus Rex because he must love dinosaurs. I'm going to ask him that question when he gets here. So I want to share with you. Usually, what I do is something from my readings to start. So I've been reading for my mental health lately. Oh, it took a dive. I have to admit, the past week or so, a lot of anger issues came up for me, and I was struggling with it. So, forgiveness and letting go came up. So, I'm reading this book called The Way of Letting Go. I don't know if I shared it with the viewers last time I was on, but I haven't got very far into it. It's about a woman, and she's actually from Manitoba here in Canada. And she she was she had a very horrific thing happen to her. Her daughter got murdered, killed, and she had to find her way through forgiveness to be able to um, find it in her heart to let go of everything that all the traumas. She lists like 15 different things that you have to go through when you're forgiving somebody and going through the trauma of a lost loved one like that. And that's really relevant all the time. But currently, I've read some news articles. Like, I don't watch the news much, but there was, I believe, a killing in Oregon, I think it was, or Ohio. I'm sorry. I don't follow the news. I don't like to listen to all that negative stuff, but it's reality, right? And I've known a few people who have had loved ones lost, and the grieving process. And that's why I work with so many various people, like Mary English, who I've had on my show before, and Nelia, who does the Live, Give, Travel, the ukulele project. Those are some various people that are close to and dear to my heart. Patty Smith, who was also on my show this year, and Liz Gangon. She is in Cornwall. I went out to visit her this year as well. And I enjoyed talking with her. She shared deeply on her mental health um, travels as well. And, you know, the way of letting go is not a one time thing, and it's difficult to process. Uh, Learning to forgive somebody for things that they've done to you, either inadvertently or deliberately harming you. And as we all know, uh, with respect to our mental health, forgiveness is one of the major things, because it's for us. It's not for, all about the other person. And I went through 12-step programs that focused on, um, you know, the importance of forgiveness, the importance of gratitude, to help you forgive your alcoholic. So, and that really deeply affects your mental health when you're going through the strugglings and the abuse that incurs from being in a relationship with an alcoholic. So, since Jeff hasn't arrived yet, maybe I'll share my story with viewers about my father. So, since this is close to Christmas, his birthday just recently passed, December 14th, and Christmas was never a time that I felt a lot of joy around that time, because I did not like my father. And um, that was because he was very cruel, and he had no conscious ability to know what love was. And I carried that trauma with me about his advances and inappropriate touching for, oh God, forever. And in the new year, I'm hoping to change from the self-care warrior to the sexual abuse survivor warrior, or something to that effect, because I'd like to get more women and men talking about being a survivor of sexual abuse and incest. And I have an amazing guest that I would have on first, and she's the producer of I Love Me, and her name is Galit, and she's in Israel. And she introduced me to her programs about children are the future for us, and as well as I Love Me. And going through uh, conversations with her and sharing with her to get out to her viewers about incest and child abuse and neglect, it was a very hard thing to do. And I hope that one day, when I make the transition for next year into the talking with survivors of sexual abuse and talking to um, people that are out there promoting healing from sexual abuse, that I will have a floodgate of people showing up to be on the podcast. And I would really love to have some feedback from viewers about that. And hi, Adam. I'm glad you're tuning in. I'm filling the time until Jeff gets here. It's really difficult to get to my place. Sometimes people just get lost, and it's unfortunate. But I decided to come on live anyway by myself so we wouldn't waste a show. Anyway, so I would like to share a few things that were in this book that really jumped out at me. And I always go through and highlight things that do that. And here was a really good question. Now, I think this would be great for people to sit back and think about, well, they're struggling and in depression or having anxiety, is take a deep breath and kind of ask yourself this question, because I'm always asking myself questions. It's one of the major things that helped me recover from all my traumas. And this one was really huge for me. In that way, is that the way the world works? Now, what she's talking about is the narrative that we play and are going through our unimaginable loss, right? And how you manage your life after you've had a loss and your search for vengeance. Okay, so she's asking this question about, if you've lost a loved one, if someone's abused you, if someone's affected your mental health, is our life supposed to always be about sorrow and suffering? So she says, is that the way the world works? Are we always supposed to be feeling this suffering and this sorrow, this grief that we have to process while we're going through mental health issues? So, and she says, does tragedy inevitably lead to greater tragedy? Now, in my circumstances, I can definitely say that, yes, it did. But it only after coming to the conclusion of not wanting to be unhappy for the rest of my life did I start looking at what I experienced, and then from there extrapolate away from constantly making another tragedy happen in my life. Basically taking the reins and building on a new foundation where I would be able to function on a day-to-day basis with some love for myself, with some kindness to myself. And definitely learning compassion was a major component in helping my mental health. So I don't think that your tragedy has to continually make more tragedies in your life. To keep reliving that tragedy over and over is causing you definitely more suffering all the time. And I believe my guest is here. So let me welcome him in. Come on in. I think I forgot to mention to you that we are live.
Yeah, I
Have a seat.
I should have used my psychic abilities.
Yes, you should have. Everyone, this is Jeff.
Oh, okay. Look at this.
Yes.
All right.
Make yourself comfortable. Oh, you brought the Artist Way. I have that too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Of course
So
you
let's
do.
make sure you're in the frame.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome, Jeff.
This is cool.
Yeah, I haven't seen you since I did the podcast with you. How are you? So good to see you.
Yeah, this is really inspiring.
Oh, thank you. You know what? I went back and took the liberty of sharing a little bit about you. And of course, Sammy's going to bark for a while, so we might have to let him in to shut him up. Talk to the viewers and tell them all about yourself. Sam, come here.
Sure. Yeah. I'm blessed.
Sam.
I'm blessed to have come across Annette's path in life, and yeah, we met at the storytelling show.
Yes, I mentioned that we met at Mo Mondays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, you had such great energy. I had to get you a couple times on the show. And yeah, tell the viewers about myself. Yeah, I mean, just to give an update, maybe I'll just talk about where I'm at in life. I'm reading lots of books. I came across The Artist's Way, tapping back into some more creativity. Yes. I like writing songs on the guitar, and that's something I've just done naturally. So to actually look into some more ways of making sure I'm taking time for my creativity is kind of neat to see that there's different methods to. So you read this book?
I started it, and I do my journaling.
Yeah.
I do my journaling religiously. The Artist Way, maybe you want to give them a little background on what it's about, because it's really good for your mental health to journal.
Yeah, actually, that's why the Artist Way, that's why I brought it, because I knew you would enjoy it because you're an artist and you like journaling. So every day you are doing they call it a morning pages. So you write 3 pages, and the idea is to break the clouds so that you're as the most you're trying to tap into your creative expression and wake up with your creative self so that you can hang out with your creative inner child for the rest of the day. So you start in the morning, do your 3 morning pages, just write whatever comes to mind. And I remember doing this in elementary school. We would write in our agendas in a little 1-page journal. I think I used to write song lyrics, and yeah, I really enjoy it. So I just started. It's I guess like 14 weeks or something. And, and so you do the morning pages, there's some other exercises, and then once a week you go on an artist date. Right. So that was kind of today. I was like, we were going to do it virtual, but I was like, you know what? I want to drive to Annette's house. I'm sure she's got a beautiful space, and it's in the New Lowell area. So lots of nature here. And I thought that'd be nice to to nourish my inner artist.
Yeah, we'll go out and visit the greenhouse after.
Yeah,
like in the wintertime, I don't have it winterized, so I don't sit out there for the interviews because it's too cold.
Right.
All I have is a small heater, but it's still beautiful. I go out there and I do my blessing, and I do my smudging and all that kind of stuff. So I still do my little artist dates.
Nice.
Right, to keep my mental health well. And so what would you like to share with us about your journey?
Yeah, do you want me to look at you or here?
You can look at the screen. You can talk directly there, or look at me.
Yeah, sure. I would love to talk about ways I make sure I'm coming back to balance and with my own mental health, like what I've learned on my journey for different health modalities at work. And if you want to talk about some adventures I've been on that have been impactful.
Sure.
Do you want to ask me a question, or you want me to just
share?
This is your show.
Well, I'm never. How we work on the mental health warriors is basically whatever inspires you to share. Like Mo Mondays, you let us pick our story. So I'll let you pick your story.
Okay.
Something around where you were maybe in your darkest part of your life.
Okay.
And what helped you get out of it? What did you do?
Wow. So we're getting right into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The darkest part of my life. Okay. Yeah. I think that'll come up naturally. Give me a second, but I think I'll start with, I think being mindful of our own energies, where we're at in each new day. So, whether we didn't eat properly in one day, or we stayed up really late, or we're going through something stressful, it's always this fluctuation of energy, and doing our best to come back to balance like an instrument. So, instruments go out of tune after you play them, or you don't treat them the best. And so trying to bring ourselves back to tune as much as possible. So I think always doing a check-in, whether it's with a journal or when you wake up, like, how are you feeling? And trying to put more attention on your whole body, like starting with, you can just do a whole scan. And I'm trying to do more of that, of like really putting attention on, like, where am I tight? Where do I need to relax? Is it in my head, in my thoughts? Is it, do I need to stretch my shoulders because I'm sitting like this all the time? So just being mindful of that. And then going to the tools on your belt that we have, such as, for me, I like to go for a run in the summer times, or go out paddleboarding on the lake, and making sure I'm moving that stagnant energy. And recently, even just dancing in my room, putting on a good DJ track that maybe doesn't have a lot of lyrics, but just has this nice flow to it. And I think trying to really tap into the sounds so that you almost become the sound, and you're just kind of losing your sense of your body for a second, and you're just trying to move as if you were the sound, so that you just forget this, and you just the whole become one with everything thing, right?
Right.
And so that's been helpful to just for 10 minutes put on a song that really resonates. Find a song, and it takes time, go on YouTube, find a playlist, some music that feels good, and then move with it, and that helps me move my energy. Yeah. Do you want me to keep going?
It's wonderful. So you have I wanted to ask you how your family's doing.
Yeah, family is important.
Yeah.
Yeah, my parents are great. They're navigating their own stresses like everybody, and yeah, I've enjoyed my parents coming out to my improv. We're trying to create that environment so that we're laughing on a regular basis, and I actually have noticed my mom creating more moments of laughter in our regular lives, and I almost feel like it's from a consistent improv class that we've been doing, and I'm trying to cultivate more of that, finding the funny parts in life, and just finding that creativity every day, and really creating laughter. So yeah, that's important. Yeah, I love my family. I'm close with my family, and always trying to navigate what needs to be integrated or learned, and move forward with. So
So what
yeah,
inspired you to do the improv?
great question. And the answer is
Your creative soul.
the answer is, what inspired me to do improv is I really enjoy when you have those belly laughs that don't come very often, and like almost like once in a blue moon, where just something really funny happens. And I'll share something that it happened the other day, where we played musical chairs at my business networking meeting.
No
As a fun thing.
kidding. Really?
Yeah, and a bunch of big kids,
Right.
and we're going around the chairs and stuff, and one of the participants, who's part of our business group, now I'm telling this story because I was like, I'm so happy this happened. Now we all have this amazing story.
Yeah.
And so he used to be a professional wrestler, and as
Oh, really?
he got to the end of the game, and there was 2 people left, and it happened so fast, but he had the moment where the music stopped and he was about to be the victor and win the game, and he jumped in the air and totally got into his inner child. I saw his face, and he went to land on this chair to cross the finish line, and of course the chair collapsed. And it was amazing. Like, I was, are you okay? That was a pretty serious, but you're not expecting that. And
Right.
I think that I couldn't stop laughing. We kind of went back to our business meeting, and it was right at the end, but I couldn't keep straight face because that was so epic. It was like the wrestler won the musical chairs in perfect, beautiful fashion. And so yeah, I got this belly laugh, and that's why I wanted to improv, because I noticed when we would do improv in the past, the belly laughs wouldn't be in a blue moon. They would be a couple times an evening.
Yeah.
So yeah, and of course, to create safe space, improv really helps you grow. It's a lot of cringy moments at the beginning, whether you're on stage or just in the environment, but you really feel just warm and light when you leave and while it's happening. So yeah, or even going to a comedy show, like, just to really take the.
Well, I noticed my boyfriend, he always watches comedy. He does not like to watch a whole lot of drama or fantasy or the thrillers or whatever. And he says, why do you watch that depressing stuff? You want to have a laugh, right?
Right.
Because laughter is really good medicine for your mental health. And I'll get in these binging of Netflix, watching like Vikings, and they're very violent shows. But it's like, I like the storyline behind it and how people overcome adversity. That's more of it. I don't even pay attention to all the gore and stuff. It's like, yeah, whatever. It's all Hollywoodish. But I do notice that if I don't watch or have a good laugh or sing or do something creative with my time with myself, I do start to slip back into like a depression.
Right.
And have you experienced anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting that you talk about the stories and movies, because yeah, I'm always like, don't watch that stuff. It's not good for the psyche. But if you can kind of remove that and see the other beauties of the show, and
Yeah.
yeah, before I answer that, I'll just loop back to what also can be powerful with watching some sad movies or movies with dramas. It's just like listening to a sad song. I was writing a song on the guitar the other day, and I'm like, a lot of the songs I write are really uplifting music, and like live your life, right? Like really like inspiring music. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy, but I guess I am that guy. Like, and but I also like writing the sad songs, and I realize like that can be important for mental health too, is like when you do need a cry. It's like I actually like I felt like I needed to cry recently, and I had to ask like my siblings and my parents. I was like, or my mom. I was like, any advice? Like, I feel like, because as a guy, like, we kind of have restrained that movement a lot of our lives. So like when I know that this is something I need to do, a good way is like they said, put on your headphones, and I knew exactly what songs I needed to listen to, and it was those kind of like sad songs where you relate, and then I'm like, oh, okay, perfect, and it's just like.
So you literally were so in tune with yourself that you knew you needed a good cry. That's awesome.
Yeah, I felt. Yeah, and actually, to go further with that story is because, so when I was going through something, say dark, like it wasn't that dark, but I was struggling with something, and so I went for a run, and that helped a bit. Usually that helps completely, but it didn't help everything, and so I was like, oh wow, I'm still feeling something. So it isn't just like stagnant energy or blood flow that needs to be moved. It's an emotion that is like I'm holding on to.
Right.
So I think I was like, you know what, I probably need to cry, like, because I kind of felt like I wanted to cry. But yeah, so that was helpful. I got a cry out and felt a little bit better. And yeah, do it alone, or it's hard to cry in front of people. So I did a breath workshop last month. That was really cool, to really put yourself in a hypersensitive state. And I noticed it was easier, like if I wanted to cry then, or just breathe really smoothly, because you're really just tuning into your body and your surroundings. And so yeah, breath work is a new thing, and it's really powerful. Yeah. Conscious breathing.
Yeah. I love that you're talking about being able to do that kind of release, because the last few shows I've been doing have been on men's mental health. And I was really spurred on it because a close friend of mine, her common law partner tried to take his life. But it was even before that. There's always this, and my son is going through a lot of emotional stuff. And being the woman on the receiving end of physical and mental and emotional abuse from men, it's been a long journey for me to be able to connect with men on a level of love, like love as just universal love, not the passion or sex love, but the ability to share space with men and not feel like, am I safe? Right? You carry that as a sexual abuse survivor, right? So lately, and it's always been in the back of my mind to have more men on my show, because women, they flock to me easily. But I think it's sort of I'm glad you pick up on my energy, because most of the time I don't let my energy out towards men, because it's always guarded. So only since like being with Walter, and it's so 7 years now, have I been able to let those barriers down. And sometimes some of the negative men will seep through, and there'll be a small attack and I'll get triggered. But I have coping mechanisms now. And so more and more I'm having men on the show. And Adam, who was our founder, and he says, hello. He's in England, and he approached me to come on the podcast to be talking about mental health and ending the stigma around mental illness. And he had me do a podcast with one of his hosts and tell a little bit about my story, like I did with you. And but I have this poll to have more and more men on the show so that they can get the message out there, so we can help end that stigma around men. And it's, you know, it's not manly to cry. It's not manly to show your emotions and accept anger. Like, men can show anger, right, but it's very difficult for men to show, like when I see my son with his daughter, it's like, he's like, I'm floored by how I don't know how to how loving he is with her.
How delicate.
And caring and kind. And I would like to see more men be able to show that towards a female partner and their children, and not go through all these boxes that we've been put into from society.
It's like both the feminine and the masculine side. Like, if you're a male, we have both those sides, and we need to develop both those sides. And as a female too, same thing. And sure, like, if you're a man and you don't necessarily have to come on this show and say, oh yeah, like, this is how I cry. Like, you know, I'll do that for you, right? But, you know, there are other ways to move those emotions yourself. Like you said, I just went in my bedroom by myself, and, like, you know, it was hard for me just to cry by myself. You know what I mean? It's like you're judging yourself. When I was at the elemental breath work, you know, somebody was crying beside me, and I thanked her at the end. I said, thanks so much for, like, just letting it out, because it was encouraging for me to do that too. And I was holding back a bit. But I was going to say, so yeah, like, if you can do it in your own room, or finding support groups are good. And yeah, you don't have to cry at support groups, but spaces that you can share your heart and your feminine side, and in a safe space. And yeah, we probably could have more men's groups. I've only been to one, and it was really helpful. It was just 4 of us, and we just talked about life, and we had a facilitator, and he was asking us questions if we wanted to share any challenges we were currently going through. And yeah, whether people want to come on this show, like, men want to come on this show, it's helpful too.
Yeah. I admire how you have taken flight with your career too, right? Because I think, well, I express it in my coloring books, that there's a creator in all of us. And if it wasn't for me creating my coloring books, I don't think I would have got out of a lot of that quagmire I was in with my mental health.
Right.
And now it's developed the tools for sharing with others to help their own mental health, to help their own journey along with struggling with traumas and things like that. And it's created a platform where when I talk with people and I tell them, well, what do you do for self-care? And I explain what I do for self-care. And they kind of pause, and they kind of look at me, and then they share a little bit. But there's a lot of people that I see still don't quite get it, that they have to put themselves first.
Right.
Do you feel that's like that in society? Do you think that people still don't look after themselves first?
Yeah. In such a busy world, especially if you have kids, and you know, your kids are who wake you up, and you start your day for your kids. I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but yeah, maybe you could do something with your kids in the morning that involves some sort of mental health, like whether you dance in the morning. That's the first thing you do, so you get your dance in. And yeah, especially moms and females, parents, like that nurturing aspect of wanting to take care of other people first, and then we get caught up in our jobs and then the stresses and then distractions in life that we do forget about, the person who's closest to us, which ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, trying to make that a priority. It doesn't have to be an hour at the gym, like whether it's just 10 minutes of breathing or going for a walk if you can, and to prioritize. I'm not really sure about, that's a good question. Like, why aren't we putting ourselves first, and so that we can show up for other people? I think,
Right.
like you had asked me, you might want to talk about some of my travels. And
where have you traveled to? Refresh my memory, because I think we talked about it on your podcast a bit.
I was just thinking what I was going to say about the travel stuff. I did a backpacking trip in Europe that was life-changing, and just taking trains and buses, and it's amazing the mileage, and so grateful that I was able to experience that. And then I went to Nepal, and we hiked a mountain and volunteered there. So those are my big trips, and some trips in the States. But we were talking about putting ourselves first. It'll come back.
No, the connection I made there was because you didn't do that for anybody else but yourself.
Right. Yeah. Oh, okay. There it is. It came back. So, it's like we have to be, like, selfish is the wrong word. It's like, it's more of just like self-care. Like, I felt like I needed an adventure in my life. I needed a disruption. I needed something to change, like kind of drastically, or just to give me new perspective. And when I did that trip and came home, and with all the other adventures that have grown from that, like, I do feel like my cup has been filled in a lot of ways in my life. And so I think when we do that enough, when we do our self-care and we start with ourselves first as best as we can, and we grow our light, and eventually, like, for most of our days, we'll be able to just naturally give that light. And some days maybe we'll need a rest, right? But if we can do that, then it's easier to share that. And I can't wait for my next adventure, wherever that will be. It's not on the top of my mind right now. I'm just more so excited to create more spaces like the improv, to grow that, and do more storytelling and things like that, so that people have the opportunity to grow in those settings, and they don't necessarily have to go on the big adventure backpacking Europe, but they can travel their community. I said that yesterday to a friend, like, when I'm not I'm going somewhere today that's an hour away, and she said, "Isn't that kind of far?" And I said, "No, like, when I'm not traveling the world, like, I'm traveling my backyard, like, as best as I can, to also nourish that creative inner child too." In this book, it said your greatest muse, the most potent muse, is your own playful inner child. And I was like, so beautiful. Like, it's right here. Like, we are our own inspiration. So spend time with your inspiration, and go on adventures with your inspiration, and your inspiration will interact with other inspiration.
Nice. I like that. And it's one of the things why I followed you and stayed friends with you after Mo Mondays ended, was because of your enthusiasm about life, and the way you always have this smile on your face. And I imagine that the people at your improv classes, what kind of feedback? I want to know what kind of feedback you get from them.
You always have a bright light too. It's been fun. It's been small groups right now, so very intimate. But like I said, it's nice to, like, see these adults on stage, and then if you look carefully, or rather feel carefully, you'll notice, like, the children that are playing there. Like we're just like our inner, like it's really takes you out of your shell, and we were doing this at a restaurant that was, had regular customers who were, having their drinks and their beers, who were sort of watching. So it's like you're really just like, hey, like we're playing this like kindergarten game here, and we're just doing it. And yeah, it's really freeing when you can do that. And so I'm looking for a new location that is also like, it can hold the group in safe way that we can express ourselves, but not too tight. It's like because
So in the spring, you want to come and do one out here with me?
Absolutely. Yeah. The more improv is great. The feedback, I think it's just on people's faces, like that. You can tell when people are
enjoying themselves,
enjoying, laughing, and taking that weight off. Yeah.
I had a lot of sharing before you came about the way of letting go, because with my my cycles, I go through these cycles of telling myself that I'm depressed. And my transformational coach, she says, stop telling yourself that you're depressed, because you make yourself depressed. But it seems like I'm two people. There's this person that wants to always be bubbly and supportive and doing everything for everybody. And then something will come along and kind of pull the rug out from under me. And then I'm off on this tangent of being depressed. So if I feeling depressed, I should call you up and go for an improv.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
You have invited me. I have so much on my plate. I'm with my son, helping my son. And I am actually going to a 10-day retreat after my birthday to Vipassana.
Wow.
So I'm going to be just meditating for 10 days, and we're going to come back and see a whole new Annette on the Power Hour of Self-Care.
That's amazing. That world has come up for me a few times in my life and definitely intrigued me.
Yeah.
I have not committed to that,
Yeah.
and whether it's for me or not. So I can't wait to hear how that experience is for you. That's a powerful resetting place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did interviews, and I had to actually have a phone call to talk with the coordinators of it, because of my mental health history, because they tell you that you could, you will.
Huh.
That stuff is going to come right back up again.
Yeah.
And so they have to be very sure that you're able to cope and have some support. So they have teachers there that you can talk to, because it's a silent retreat. And the only time you can talk to somebody is when you book some time with your teacher. So they told me, yes, we want to accept you to come on the course. However, we want to have an experienced teacher with that can help you, and two, so that they have volunteers as well, right? But this person that's going to be helping me is like fully been integrated,
right?
Lots of teachings. She's not a volunteer, and she's going to meet with me every day, not when I feel I need, because can you imagine if something from my past came seeping through and I can't cope with it? They want you to have a good experience. Plus, they don't want to have any trouble for the school, right? And I thought, yeah, that's perfect. I mean, I have mental health support at a Vipassana center, and I was like, this is absolutely phenomenal for me.
So can I ask? I can't wait for you to experience that. I'm sure it'll be transformative.
Yeah.
I do want to comment on you having a transformational coach, and how important it is to seek different ways of what tools we can add to our belt. So I want to talk about that in a second, but first I want to ask you, like, when things do come up for you, and how do you, or how have you learned from what people have taught you or what you've learned yourself? How do you learn to integrate those emotions, especially if they've been buried for a while. Because I'm reading a book right now called The Presence Process, and he says it's not about feeling better. So it's like, okay, or it's not always about feeling better. Oh, I'm not feeling good, I'm gonna go for a run, or I'm gonna cry, right? It's more about getting better at feeling. And I'm wondering if he's gonna start talking about, like he sort of has already, like when something does come up, to put attention on it, and whether to send it love or to just try and breathe into it and relax so that it will dissolve and integrate. I'm trying to figure that out. So when things come up for you, how do you, and that he doesn't always use the word healing. He likes to use the word integrate. And so, yeah, I'm curious, have you found ways to, like
process it,
process it, or have it, do what it needs to do so that you can move forward, and maybe it'll never come back again. And maybe some things will, but maybe that certain thing, like you process it, it's like, it's part of the story, but it's like, it's not really, you're not holding on to it. Or attached to it.
Well, when I went through what I went through recently, was a bout of anger. So somebody said something, and it's a behavior that's repetitive that happens from them. And I was already in another place where I had lost myself. I lose track of myself, even though I'm getting up and journaling and I'm exercising and I'm eating better, and I still mentally, it's almost like there's a shift in my mental state that goes on a vacation. I don't know how to explain it.
You got a great laugh.
Thank you.
That's the laugh. We need to learn how to laugh fully too, right?
So here I am out in La La Land, and then I get a trigger, and then I get lost. So I get in this negative emotion of anger. And once the anger is there, then it's a matter of me starting to look inward. I immediately go, what am I experiencing? Why am I feeling? I start asking myself questions.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah. So where is this coming from? Why am I triggered? Like, I know I'm triggered, but the anger is still there. So I'm like the two people. It's myself trying to look at the person that's mentally struggling and going, okay, you're experiencing this, for this, and this reason. And then I start to process it as in, okay, how am I feeling holding on to this anger? Like crap. So it's like, well, do you want to continue feeling this way? I ask myself. And the answer is no, because I'm, not able to focus on the things that give me joy. And I'm not able to do the simple things as go visit my children. I make everything about being in this sad pity pot kind of thing. And it's like, enough of that. And then I'm like, I've just got to stop. And I make a choice. And that's how I process it. I process it by literally almost separating myself from the anger. So I've allowed myself to feel it. I'm still feeling it. Do I want to continue feeling it?
Right.
I go through that whole process. And at the end, it's like, no, I don't want to feel this anymore. It's weighing me down. I'm not getting the things I love done.
Yeah.
And I can't express the joy I feel for living, So I close that chapter. And I'm back to myself again.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like how you use both modalities of like trying to feel it, as they're talking about in that book. I think it's like being able to send it love and breathe through it and it might not be anything from a present situation. It might seem like it is, and sometimes it might be, but sometimes it could be something from our childhood that when we didn't have our mental intellect to digest, we just digest everything emotionally. And so maybe that's coming up, and then we get caught of this confusion of like, oh, it's because of this, and then it's just another problem, right?
Yeah.
Whereas it was originally just one feeling. So being able to first do what you said is feeling it, and then trying to breathe with it, send it love if you can, and sit with it. But if you sat with it long enough, then yeah, make a choice to move on and come back to it. Like when it resurfaces again, then okay, I'm gonna send it a little bit more love this time, and eventually that's where I'm at. I'm still trying to figure it out when you have emotions come up that are stored. I do really think it's powerful, and this is something I've learned recently. It's been very effective. Is when our buttons are pushed, and using that as a mirror to check in. Like sometimes our buttons are pushed. It's like the person's not even being mean to us. They're just
well, most people don't know there's a button they're pushing.
That too, yeah.
Right.
And so say they're just in your space, and you just don't feel like being in somebody's space today, whether it's someone you live with, or your partner, or your parents, or your kids, right? And they're just in your space, and it's causing you like some resistance. And then you typically in our heads we're like, wow, this person is being disrespectful, or why are they in my space? How can't they, like, and if you just mindfully and respectfully told them, hey, I could use some alone time if that's possible. And I'm just not feeling the best today. Like, so say you do that, but before that happens, if you notice the resistance in you that comes up, being able to be mindful that it's not about them. It's like we didn't get enough sleep, or something's coming up from us, and it's like,
well, that brings me to this little saying. I have this posted in my space here. It says, you can't stop people from saying something. You can't prevent the negative from happening, but you don't have to allow it in your spirit. Right. So I allowed that in my spirit, and I went off on a tangent about my value, my self-respect, my self-esteem, and I just went off. But the funny thing is, with me, if I find I'm ill, like I'll get the sniffles, I'll get coughs, my body will get achy. It's not the flu, it's not a cold, it's my depression.
Right.
And I can put it to clockwork.
For sure.
And the funny thing is, then I find my voice, because then when I'm feeling sick, it causes me to slow down. And then I go, why am I sick? I'm sick because blah, 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 because I'm holding on to anger. I'm holding on to resentment. I'm holding on the resistance to, people saying something negative, and me taking it into my spirit and letting it make me toxic. The thing I learned the most about my mental wellness is that it's never an ending. There's not an ending to it.
Right.
I constantly have to watch it and be present. Like your book that you're reading, I've read The Power of Now. Nice. I've read the Now Effect. I've read The New Earth, and all of these authors and stories that are expressed about staying in the present moment. I think as humans, we can't help but go back into the past and feel that old emotion, those what Eckhart Tolle calls as pain bodies.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And then vacillate into the future and worry about, oh my God, I'm going to have enough money to pay the rent.
Yeah.
That's why mental health is like that, right? It's like, I'm in the past, I'm suffering from stuff from the past. I'm in the future, I'm suffering from things that I have no control over for the future. And I like sharing that with people, because that's typically how I am. It's like, one day I'm a calm ocean, the other day I'm like a raging river.
Yeah.
And I've learned to love myself that way. So there's my voice, and I don't feel love. I'm angry.
Right.
You made me mad.
Yeah.
But I don't say demeaning things. I don't say cruel things. I don't feel this way. and I express it, I have to share it.
Yeah, sharing is very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so true, what you're saying. Like people can be our greatest teachers. Someone just told me that because they're just showing you where you're at, and in I love the meditation technique with it when you're just sitting in stillness, and the your mind is going to come by like clouds, and there's going to be, oh, I got to take out the garbage. That cloud, and it'll pass right by. You'll like put a little bit of attention on it, then it'll pass by, and like, oh, I got to call Joe, and then it'll pass by. But then like something else will come up and be like, oh, is that girl going to call me back or whatever? Like something a little bit more has a little bit more energy. And then you might start putting more attention on that cloud, and the cloud starts getting bigger. And so it's being able to, again, be mindful of like when we're feeding something we don't want to be feeding too much. And it takes time. Like, and so, and like you say, making that choice. Sometimes we do want to feel those emotions and just, and forgive ourselves and breathe, and again send love to them, and it takes time. I get challenged all the time, and you say like, oh, I'm always smiling. Like, for sure there's times I slip, we all slip, and then when we do slip, those are great opportunities to like reflect. When I get in an argument with someone, and when I go home, I said, like, what was the moment in that conversation that flipped the switch, that where it changed the trajectory of the conversation, and trying to really figure out like, where did I go wrong? Like, and what mistake did I make that I can learn from? And then next time I'm in that conversation, like, I know what to say better next time, or I have to go learn what to say better next time, or I know like I'm not able to have those conversations with that type of person because of where they're at in life. And I just have to be present with them, learn how we do resonate with each other, and asking questions is always a pretty safe space. So if you can't get into, like when we were talking about the men connecting more with their feminine side and safe space of sharing, it's important to do your best to recognize like what lens somebody is looking through, where they're at, and knowing how many questions you can even ask them. When you notice like, okay, like they're coming out of their shell a little bit, they're sharing a little bit of their vulnerability, like be mindful, like you can't just bulldozer. Yeah. Like I remember asking someone on my travels who was just someone who was in our group, and I said, hey, like, what are you afraid of? What's your deepest fear? And she said, Jeff, I can't tell you that. And I said, why not? Like, I'm probably never gonna see you again. Like, let's talk about some deep stuff. And she's like, oh, I don't know you well enough. And that was a good little lesson for me, that like I can be very expressive too, but you have to be mindful of like where people's boundaries.
And respect people's boundaries. Anyway, so our hour is up.
Okay.
And
it was an abrupt stop at a minute and a half here. I was gonna say,
I want you to go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
I was just gonna say, I think it's really important what you said about having your transformational coach. That's awesome.
I think everyone needs a transformational coach.
We all need mentors. We all need coaches. We all need people we can trust, friends to go to share, to ask for advice sometimes. And you don't have to take everything they say truthfully. Like, try and feel what resonates. And sometimes you'll go online, and whether you're looking for a therapist or a coach, and you read their biographies, and you try and feel again what resonates with your heart, and then you'll go and see that therapist or that coach or that energy healer, and you see them one time, you're like, it was okay. Like, but sometimes you got to go 3 or 4 times. Or sometimes it's not the right person, and you try somebody else, or you try a different group, and you just explore. You're curious. Like when we're kids, we just you explore and you find your little tribes, and
and don't give up.
And don't give up, because maybe I'll maybe I'll end, and then you can do
share with the viewers how people can reach you.
Sure.
And your webpage and all that.
Sure. And just on that note of never giving up, I read this in An Artist's Way. There's so many good quotes in this book. It says, "The events in our lives happen in a sequence in time, but in their significance to ourselves, they find their own order. The continuous thread of revelation," by Eudora Welty. Did I say that right? Yeah. So from that quote, basically what I got from that was, my coach or my therapist, like I might already know her or him.
Yeah.
I just haven't taken the step to make that phone call. My future partner, they might already be in my circle of friends, and it's just about, life has already presented it, and maybe it hasn't, but let's assume, like life, the universe is with you. It sends you what you need, and then you just have to kind of like put the puzzle pieces together and pay attention.
Yeah.
And so I like this, like, things come at you. They might not come in exact order because we don't say yes to the same way the universe like presents something to us. Like, hey, Annette, come to my improv class. Like, you're like, yeah, I feel like I would enjoy that, but it's just not the right time.
Yeah.
But eventually, like, you might come and be like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I was
definitely intriguing.
Yeah.
Look, Adam has a question. He says, why do you think us people with mental health don't give therapists or counseling chances?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah. For myself to answer that, why do you think people with mental health don't give therapy? I think it's because we're not ready to listen.
Oh.
When I went to my first therapist, I just wanted to vent. Blah, blah, got it all out. Right. But I did do my work. But it wasn't enough. I had to go and get another therapist. And I had to, when I went back for the second round of therapy, I didn't like the first person I was talking with. I couldn't connect with them. So that's one of the reasons why I don't think we give counseling a chance, because we're not connecting with that specific person. But like we were saying, Adam, just don't give up. Keep looking for one that you do click with.
Yeah, and it, like I said, it might not even be a therapist. It could be a coach.
It could be a friend. It could be
a friend that
mother.
Yeah, who just says, "Hey, like, what helps me is dancing in my room." Like you said on the podcast, like when I'm really depressed, I sing Barbara Streisand. It's like
trying to get me to sing.
Yeah.
And he says, mine is fear of rejection. Oh. Yeah, the fear of rejection is a strong one. That's a strong one. But that's a good topic, Adam. We're going to have that as a topic on the show. Fear of rejection. That causes a lot of mental health issues.
My safe space is the Mental Health Warrior is beautiful. Yeah, finding groups. Like I said, it might not be a therapist. It could be a community, like improv or wherever safe space you have, or sharing groups are really helpful. Books, like I've read books on different communication and like learning, putting on myself and other people's shoes to just to see their lens. But yeah, just keep learning and pay attention to what life is presenting to you. Yeah, become a good listener. I think the last podcast I did, she said, like, the therapist sometimes, like, they don't have the answers. It's just about holding space so that you can, when you're speaking out, you can figure it out yourself and feel what's right. So yeah, if anybody wants to learn about your favorite life, that's my plant, my joy right now. And you can go to yourfavoritelife.com. We've got some great stuff coming in the new year with some drop-in music programs and improv. And yeah, I really enjoy doing the podcast. And it's inspiring to see you doing something beautiful too. And yeah, you can check out. I'm on Instagram or YouTube or Apple Podcasts, and I didn't realize this will be a video, and
Yeah, they can be replayed.
yeah, cool.
Yeah, we go live in case people want to interact, like Adam's interacting with us.
Yeah.
And then people can go back to YouTube or LinkedIn Tree and go through Spotify and stuff like that. It's audio as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Adam would love to have you on the show.
Yeah,
with him.
More.
So you'll be talking to him from England.
Actually, yeah, beautiful. You know what I'll leave is when I stayed at a commune in Portugal. It was a really self-sustainable community, and the women wanted a sacred space to go to when they're on their moon, their moon cycle. So like they only wanted women energy there, the feminine energy, and I thought that was really neat. And then one of the men stepped up and said, you know what, like we need a space for us men too, so that we can like bring out our inner warrior and wrestle and, you know, but also be vulnerable and like share with just men. Yeah. So, you know, that I thought that was really beautiful, and we need that too, whether it's a physical space or online groups.
I like that idea. Yeah. Yes. Maybe we should have a mental health warrior for men and a mental health warrior for women.
Yeah, there's a warrior and warrior.
Yeah.
Warriors
and warriors.
Warrior S in all of us. Yeah.
Well, it's the end of the year for me, folks, and I'm so grateful for Jeff coming on as my last guest of 2022. I have had the most amazing time doing these self-care, being the self-care warrior. And I'm looking forward to either continuing on as the self-care warrior next year or as the sexual abuse survivor warrior. Hold on. I'm going to come up with some great topics. In any event, I will be back next year. I hope everyone has an amazing holiday. If you're celebrating Christmas or Hanukkah, whatever your faith may be, I wish you so much joy, love, kindness, and compassion. And please check out Jeff's page and follow him if you're in the Barrie area and you want to go dragon boating. He'll take you out dragon boating too. And I want to wish everyone all the best for 2023. Please like and subscribe, share. Let's help end the stigma around mental illness.
Thanks, Annette.
You're welcome.
Everybody dance. Are we still on?
Bye.